Hi animation lovers, and welcome back to the belated final part of the Retro Bear cartoon collection series of videos which started last year and inexplicably finished, but now we're back to the final part. Yes, hello, welcome once again back to the gaming pantry for something a little bit different, as I like to do every now and again. Yes, it was brought to my attention last week, and possibly even the week before, and maybe even the month before that, that I hadn't actually completed my run through my cartoon collection. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, there's 5 videos on my channel which I'll stick a cheeky description link in the description below for you, so you can have a look at those if you haven't seen those already, where I went through my DVDs and videos and books and things and talked about the influence, one of the great influence on my life, which is the animation form in cartoons. We talked about the classic cartoons of the 1930s through to the 60s. That's the Warner Brothers and the Tom and Jerry, and what else we talk about? Snoopy, the Peanuts cartoons, Pink Panther. Then we moved on to the joy of stop motion animations, things like Bagpuss and Ivor the Engine and the Magic Roundabout. Anything I had on video cassette, like the Watch Me Mother series. Then we talked about Hanna-Barbera in great detail, because there's an awful lot to get through on that one. And then I said I was going to come back and do the final part, which I never did, and this is what I'm doing now. And in this I'm going to talk about more modern cartoons, thrown in with a few elements of things from my childhood as well, which might be interesting. It's not all animation, some of it's actually puppetry, which is interesting because we've got a little bit of that to talk about. Not a huge amount, but some of that there. Why am I putting that cartoon collection video? Well, it sort of falls into that children's TV section, which is a bit grey. I could put some of this in, they say, TV one, which I'd like to do actually, because I've got quite a few TV series on video and DVD I'd like to do at some point as well, so that might be another one I'll get to at some point in the future. But I want to round it sort of quite nicely and talk about a few aspects of it. So we've got stuff here from the 60s, the 70s, and then sort of the 90s and then into the 2000s as well. So some of it will be quite familiar to you because it's something quite modern. Some of it you may have heard about, something you may never have seen, which is always quite interesting to go. But if you haven't seen the previous episodes, and I want to thank everybody who watched those, because I enjoyed doing them, and I know quite a few of you responded and said how much fun they were when you watched them back and how much you enjoyed them. It's always nice to do something a little different. Yes, it is a gaming room, as I keep saying, but that is not the whole purpose of why I'm here. And I'm hoping, you know, I've done different things. You know, we've done wrestling, we've done music, we've done, what else we've done? Oh, stuff I can't remember. It's completely out of my head. It was there a minute ago. We've done Doctor Who, we've done Carry On, that's it. So I'd like to do more things based around that. So let's conclude this trip through the cartoon stroke animation stroke puppetry part of my collecting lifestyle and history, and then we'll get to that. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff from the 60s and 70s here first of all. Now, I did have more at one point. Some of the stuff unfortunately went. And the reason some of it went is because it became very, very expensive. I had, to give you an idea of 2 things I would have talked about had I still got them, or actually 3 things I had. Firstly, there would have been, these are all from the 70s. First, it would have been, sorry, from the 70s, from the 80s. First, it would have been Charlton and the Wheelies, which was a stop motion animation from the Cosgrove Hall studio. These are the same people who went on to do Danger Mouse and Duckula and Victor and Hugo, if anybody remembers that one. It was quite good, that was. That was very strange. But before that they were doing animation, so stop frame, they started doing that. And Jamie and the Magic Torch, another Cosgrove Hall classic as well. And I actually had the DVD of Charlton and the Wheelies when it first came out. That went a long time. I don't know what happened to that. I just think it just disappeared. I remember that vaguely. Again, some very, very clever ways of writing the characters' names, and very well narrated, and some very familiar, very strange characterizations. Charlton was a giant sort of dragon, a dragon with a Yorkshire accent. Hey up, little old lady. That was one of his talking to the Fenella the Witch, who was quite a scary looking character back then. And she had a talking telescope called Claptrap von Spildebeans, because you used to see everything and tell her what was going on. So I had that when it first came out. I think my late mum sort of said, "Oh, you should get that. You remember that when you were a kid?" Yes, I did. It was quite good. Had a great theme tune as well. So that went, and I'm not sure what happened to that one. Willow the Wisp was another one. That was early 1980s. I also had that on a record. That was most famous for having Kenneth Williams do all the voices, all the characters. But it was all right. It came on that, the old Magic Roundabout Paddington slot, about 5 minutes. Perishers as well was in there as well at one point. Not very keen. Fred Bassett. 5 minutes before the news back in the old days. That was when the news used to come at 5:45. But you'd have a 5-minute cartoon lead-in, and that was one of those there. And the other one that I got rid of, which shot up in value, it was quite expensive. Well, it was about 25, I think it was about 30 quid at some point, which when I sold it. And that was Rhubarb, which was the dog, daddle-a-down, 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 which was Richard Bryars narrating it, Bob Godfrey with the old magic markers and the pens and the wobbly animation, which is the reason it wobbled, because that's how they used to do it. They used to draw everything with magic markers, and you had that sort of wobbly effect to it. And I got rid of that as well, because obviously at the time I needed to cash in on that, so I haven't got those anymore, which is a shame. But you can get them. What I never had was Bod. It was also in it. I think it's a Cult Kids classic series of videos, like a gold cover. I've got one here to show you. The only one I've got left. What I never had was Bod. Here comes Bod with old John Lemusier with the storytelling, and Derek Griffiths. I think is he still in Coronation Street, Derek Griffiths? He was a few years back. He used to do all the music for it, and fantastic little animation, really weird. I was watching a few of them on YouTube the other day. You can actually find them. Watching these old classic Bod episodes and wonder what the hell was going on. And they used to be on the episode of Bod. You'd have Bod, and then you'd have Alberto Frog with his amazing magical band, and the milkshakes. Strawberry. If you remember that as well. Anyway, if you've got no idea what I'm talking about, go and look it up on YouTube. Oh, Wikipedia, because that might be your friend. Anyway, let's start with this. So some of those are gone there. So this is what I've got left. This is Puppetry. This was a series I remembered when I was a kid, and then it got brought back so many times over the years and rehashed and redone. I believe there is a CGI remake of it at the moment, or has been recently. I say recently, in the last 10 years. And what have we got here? And this is, again, this is not the sort of thing I would watch, but this used to come on a Sunday lunchtime. I'm sure it was a Sunday lunchtime when I was a kid, on the old ATV network, which is the old Central Television up here in the Midlands. It used to be Central, it's all the same, it's all called ITV now, isn't it? But you have different regions. And I remember this came on at lunchtime. I'm sure it's sandwiched between University Challenge with Bamber Gascoigne, who died recently, an American television series called Benson about a butler, which itself was a spin-off from a series called Soap. This might be complete news to some of you, but I think, what is he talking about? Is he just making this up? No, I'm not. Go and look it up. But I'm pretty sure this used to come on a Sunday lunchtime. I'm sure it did. And then it ended up being, when I was probably in my mid-teens, it got repeated on BBC Two. There's a big hoo-ha about it and lots of promotion about it. Then I think at one point it wound up on Cartoon Network, and on to Boomerang, and then just sort of dropped off and then repeated. Anyway, I'm talking about Thunderbirds. So I'll put this in here because although it's not animation, it's still a style of animation, it's puppetry and whatever. And this is from Jerry Anderson. He did so many other TV series, Fireball, XL5, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. I think he was involved in Terrorhawks, and Terrorhawks is one of his as well. I mean, most people my age will probably remember Terrorhawks more than Thunderbirds, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this was a classic action series, International Rescue, a series of the Tracy family looking rather scary there on the front, like the children of the corn, don't they? They would sort of have these amazing flying vessels and vessels that would go underwater into space. And they get every episode there used to be some sort of catastrophe. It's like, it's like Casualty, but on a much bigger scale. and they'd have to go and rescue it. And it was great because all the other, it was like models and animate things being blown up, and I really think this is fantastic. Now this is all, I believe, this is a 9-disc set, so it's got all volumes 1 to 8. So there weren't that many when you think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's about 30 odd episodes altogether. They just get repeated for years. So they're all in there. Somebody bought this for Christmas years back, and I've never actually watched any of them. I will be honest with you, I'm a bit loath to open it actually, because although it's unsealed, I don't like to opening these things up. But yeah, there's probably a lot of thin DVDs in there, I'm guessing. But yeah, it's a complete 9-disc set. So 32 episodes, 9 discs. So it's 32 episodes at the top there. There we go. So if you count on the back, and there's 9 discs there. But yeah, that was just a program I remember, and I did watch some of the repeats back in the 90s to see how good it was. And yeah, it is really good. Those are some of there's the craft on the back there. So if we start here, we've got Thunderbird 1, which is the rocket. Thunderbird 2, which everybody remembers, the big green thing. I remember my uncle, because my uncle was a young lad growing up, and he had a model of Thunderbirds 2. Used to have the big gap in the middle. If you look at a hanger, used to pick a hanger up. You weren't quite sure what he was going to take in there with him, and he used to fly off the middle. Thunderbird 3 was also a rocket. Thunderbird 4 used to be underwater. Of course, Jerry Anderson did Stingray as well, which that started from. And then number 5, which was up in space, which is the one everybody forgot about. Was it Alan? I can't remember. He was, yeah, and I think he was the one in that god awful live action film that they did in the 2000s. Did he go rogue in that one or something? He was a Thunderbird who was being left out or something. I can't remember. It was a terrible film anyway. I might have just made that up. You also got the father down here, Jeff Tracy. You've also got Brains, who was the scientist, and then on the far side here you've got the Hood, who was the main villain in it. Yeah, and it was all good fun, and these episodes used to last ages. I try to remember how long these episodes used to, near enough an hour, weren't they? I'm pretty sure, or 45 minutes or something like that with adverts. I might tell you on the bottom here I always like to see how many minutes you'll get. Oh yeah, you're getting a hell of a lot. 1,623 minutes for your 32 episodes. So you're not getting a bad value out of that. I don't think it's that expensive to pick up. So yeah, Thunderbirds. Yeah, worth a look. Ignore the modern stuff. Have a look at that. It's quite good fun. And there are a couple of computer games based on Thunderbirds as well. One was a sort of like a maze puzzle element, and the other one was a game by Grand Slam. I remember that one more than the others, and that was more based around. If you've ever seen Batman: The Caped Crusader, it was a bit like that, more of a side-on, not say platform game, but it was a bit different. There were a couple of games based around it anyway, that when I was growing up in it. There may be more since, I don't know. I know there was one based on the film, but we're not going to talk about that anyway. That never happened. So there's some puppetry there, some more coming shortly. Then we move into the 70s. Now, I talked about those Cult Kid Classics DVDs. This is the other one that I picked up. And this used to be on it was either on a lunchtime, weekday lunchtime, or it was on a Sunday morning. Now, if you watch my Christmas special Christmas stream as part of the 12th stream of Christmas, we talk about classic television from Christmases gone by, and using the BBC Genome Project, which basically gives you all the Radio Times listings ever. And you can go back and you would always find that some stupid, just a random Sunday at 8:50 a.m. where there was no television. There was no television on at all on a Sunday morning. It was religious programmes, and that was it. There would always be some sort of cartoon or animation to start the day off with, and that would be a lot. And then otherwise it was lunchtime, something called Watch with Mother, the old Watch with Mother slot from the 50s, and then it got renamed Seesaw in the 1980s. And they used to put things on like that. And this was, I remember, was part of it, mainly because it was a catchy little theme tune. And I'm not even not sure what they are. Well, we know what they are because the title of the programme is called The Flumps, but I'm not sure what they were meant to be. Sort of little balls of fluff, really, with different characterisations. And they're all 6 of them are there, sort of lined up. So you have Mother Flump on the end, then you have Pootle with a white hat on, and you had Father Flump, and then you had Perkin, and you had Grandpa Flump, who used to play the flumpophone there. And then finally, at the very, very end, you had a Posy, with a little blue bow in her hair because she was a girl. That was a way of defining it, you know. And yeah, I think they used to live at the bottom of the garden because they're on a wall there. It was inspired. They used to live somewhere at the bottom of the garden. And but even like, there's 3 hours of material on this one. I didn't get 3 hours of material. That's really weird, isn't it? Let me just. So it was a really strange program because I remember when it first started, it very much followed the usual format of children's television programming at the time, which was you'd have like you got 13 episodes, so 13 episodes into 3 hours. What, that's on 15 minutes each, something like that. Maybe not quite 15 minutes, near enough 12 minutes. And you'd have like a story, but in the middle of the story there would be a song or a piece of poetry set to Matt Gray. It was like Bagpuss, but the form of Bagpuss is very, very simple and straightforward. It starts off with a backstory. Then in the middle there's like a story part of it relating to the item they've got in the shop, and then it all finishes. This is very much the same. There's a background story and then there's something else in it. And when I first watched this, I immediately got transported back, remembering exactly what this rhyme was. It was something to do with the locket in the pocket. And it's really it's all coming back to me now. It's retro bird reminiscences. Should be another series to do, but I mean, there's nothing much to this DVD such itself is that, but there it is. But this used to be on all the time. Against one of these programs, like so many programs over the years, they made 13 episodes, let alone it's repeated for about 15, 20 years afterwards before finally disappearing and never being taken off. And you know, if you enjoy watching the Flumps when you were a kid, you'll love watching them now. So sit back and enjoy this absolutely flumptastic trip back in time. And I love the fact they've got the buzzwords on the back here. So you've got Marvel, Hang Out, Chill Out and Thrill. Thrill with the Flumps. Wasn't exactly very thrilling, was it, really? Thrill to the truly remarkable Flumpet-playing grandfather Flump. Chill out with Father Flump as he digs on his allotment. Yeah, it's sort of playing it up and knocking it down at the same time. But, I mean, you know, there's never been a Flumps revival. So it gives you an idea of perhaps... definitely don't remember the name of the lady who narrated, Gail somebody, if I remember. She did all the voices as well, and sang all the songs and did all the bits in between. So, yeah, just something else that was always around when I was a kid. I've kept that. So I've watched a few off that, but not watched all of them. Now, the other animation I remember, again, I mean, this one has been rehashed so many times since then. There's a modern day version of it, which actually I don't mind, although it has tinkered a lot with the original format. But it's been, the license has been bumped around different places and people have had hold of it. And the books it's based on have sold billions around the world. And this was, I mentioned Will o' the Wisp earlier. We actually had a record, a long play, an LP of Will o' the Wisp, which is exactly the same things that were on the television. It was just the vocal track. And we had a record of this as well, of this series. And I hope I haven't shown this. I think I've shown this in the previous episode. I don't think I have anyway. But I'm going to show you here today anyway. And this is another perennial favourite of any children, to be honest with you, is the Mr. Men. Now this is the original Mr. Men series, narrated by the great actor from Dad's Army, Captain Mannering. You'll probably most people remember him from Arthur Lowe. Very strange choice to narrate a children's television programme because it's not exactly what you would think about having somebody to do a series like that. But these were very, very basic animations based on the Roger Hargreaves books. And these were always on during the 70s. I think the original first series, which is this one here, came out in 1975. And that one was probably a couple of years later. And those were the only two they did. Then they introduced the Little Misses, and that got rehashed into Little Mrs. and Mr. Men cartoon in the 80s, and that was John Alderson and Pauline Collins did narrating on that one. And this is very, very simple. It's as you can see there, it just gives you a track listing on the inside. So Mr. Silly, Jelly, Snow Bounce, Forgetful, Funny, Bump, Tickle, Small, Messy, Greedy and Sneeze are included in this one. And on this one, Strong, Daydream, Fussy, Worry, Uppity, Dizzy, Topsy-Turvy, Muddle, Mean, Nosy, Chatterbox, Noisy, Impossible, Lazy and Grumpy. I don't say when these actually broadcast, but it doesn't actually say, unfortunately. Oh yeah, 1974. Well, I think they both say 1974. I think they were slightly different apart from that. But yeah, this isn't the original case. I don't think, which is a bit of a shame. I might have to swap that one out. But I mean, I picked these up dirt cheap off a website called That's Entertainment, or was it That's DVD? I can't remember. It used to be second-hand resale. I bought a lot of DVDs in the early 2000s. I used to shop on the internet. I barely shop on. You stopped shopping on the internet for about 15 years. But I used to buy these all the time and just pick these up. They would come in and just grab hold of them. And they really are good. You know, good. It brings back warm memory. You could put that on and be transported back to the sepia tones of the 1970s. And I don't know. You just, you know, you have to grow up with these things. I know people would look at these now probably and think, oh, they're terribly animated and all a bit basic. Well, that's how it was back then. And it takes you back to those moments, and I can also imagine myself. You see, it's probably even more weird. Cause I still live in the same. Well, I had moved elsewhere and now living back here, but I'm now living in the same place where I watched those growing up, sitting on the floor in the living room where the telly is. Ironically, at the moment, where the telly is in exactly the same place it used to be many years ago, and just sort of sat right close to it. And you know, the simple theme tune comes on, the basic animation. And of course, these things haven't really been remastered properly, so you've still got the original sort of grainy feel to them, which is quite some different to behold. But yeah, it's you know, I don't mind. I said that there's the Mr. Men show, which I think runs mostly on Channel 5. It's got a great theme tune to it. I love it. And some of the Mr. Men characters are the same. Some of them have changed, and some of them are completely new. I don't mind that so much. It's not so bad. But these are the originals, are the best, no doubt about it. So those are those. And then finally, as we come out in the 1970s, some more puppetry for you. And this again, Sunday tea times, I think this used to be on. I distinctly remember it being on Sunday tea times. I'm sure it was, because most Sundays we go to my granddad's house. And I always remember we used to end up watching this, and then after we'd have some tea or something, and then the grown-ups would be sitting down watching the Antiques Roadshow. But I remember watching this around my granddad's house, and not much else really about it. But then this series sort of disappeared, although the franchise continued for many years, and again has gone through like the Missman, quite a lot of iterations and ownerships. And has recently made a bit of a comeback, but it disappeared. Then it resurfaced in 1994, I think it was, or 5. And I know because it turned up at Nickelodeon. I was at college, and a guy who was in our class who I'd gone through high school with, he said, "You never get this what they showed." He said that they showed this. Somebody mentioned it. He said, "Oh yeah, Nickelodeon is showing that." And I immediately was like, "What? I mean, Nickelodeon is showing that?" I said, "Yeah, that's 12:30 on a weekday." I couldn't believe it, so I ran home and I started scouring the schedule. I can't see it here. It's not here at all. So he told me when it was meant to be on, and I set a video recording for it. When you could set video recorders back then manually, and I recorded something and it wasn't what it was. It was an episode of Doug, which I never used to watch. But then I did actually find it afterwards. Nickelodeon did run it again briefly, but the original series, as far as I'm aware, hasn't actually been re-shown often, if at all, ever. There was a revival in the mid-90s, I think just a couple of years after that, maybe 95, 96, which was okay, but didn't quite work. There have been feature films about this franchise. Then it disappeared completely. Then it went through ownership changes. A few computer games have been brought out based around this franchise. Then there was a new film which came out, which was a massive success, and there was a sequel which wasn't. And then there was a really interesting show which they tried to do about 5-6 years ago, which didn't work, but I thought it was quite good. And then there's been a couple of other series since then which haven't quite hit the mark. And what I'm talking about is the Muppets. And this is the Muppet Show. Now, that might now will make sense. I'll tell you what it was beforehand. You would have got a bit bored. What's he talking about? I said, oh, it's the Muppets, yeah. So the Muppet Show. And I bought this when it first came out. I thought, wow, this is actually the 50th anniversary edition. Selling 50th anniversary, 50 years of being green. So this, when it says 50th anniversary, probably to coincide with the creation of the Muppets as opposed to the TV series, because the TV series was about 1976, I think it was, and obviously 50 years is like 4 years into the future, so I'm not broadcasting for the year 2026, just so in case you're aware. And this is the entire first season. The great thing about the Muppet Show was Jim Henson's characters had been on Sesame Street and on the screen for a number of years before this. This was the extension of that, with new characters. Kermit obviously having been in Sesame Street at the forefront of it, new characters built around it. And then what they did was they got guest stars on. And they weren't just guests, they were big guest stars of the day. Bob Hope, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, John Cleese, Spike Milligan, even old-time stars, like George Burns, Ethel Merman, Sylvester Stallone was on the cast of Star Wars, was on. Honestly, if you go through it, some people you'll recognise and some people don't. Julie Andrews, Chris Christopherson, John Denver, Elton John. I mean, I'm not going to keep mentioning with Peter Sellers. I'll draw the line at that one. And you know, sometimes you get a guest star on who was fantastic, and sometimes you get a guest star and go, who the hell is that? But yes, so season 1 came on 4 separate DVDs, and there are extras on each of these as well, which is quite good. What it doesn't actually tell you is each episode. You don't actually get a list of who's on which one. I know Bruce Forsyth is in that one, first one somewhere anyway. But yeah, so it's. I mean, it was so original because you'd have all these guest stars come on and sort of interact with puppets, which is really strange. There's nothing else like it at the time. So that was the first series. Then there was another series, which was season 2, obviously. Miss Piggy on the front there. Again, this comes on 4 discs. And again, it doesn't tell you. Oh, it does actually give you a little bit of a breakdown. This one doesn't mention any star names at all. This one does. And I've mentioned them all already: Steve Martin, Peter Sellers, Elton John, and Julie Andrews. 24 episodes, season 2. And that's all these DVDs do have extras on. There's the Muppets Valentine Special. For the first time ever owned, this rare programme that aired on ABC television in America in 1974. I do like finding these things. There's the original pitch reel on here. There's the original pilot show on here on season 1. And you can get these dirt cheap now. I say dirt cheap. You can't buy them like this. You tend to find the ones you can get hold of now with the re-released slim version, which is what season 3 came out on. And I picked that up a few months ago actually, because I went through this nostalgia. Oh, I must make sure I get these. And there's actually a documentary on here as well, from 1969. This one doesn't tell you again which guest stars are on it, so you'll have to work it out. And it's a bit more generic, that one. And then for some reason they never released the 4th season or the 5th season. So those 4th and 5th seasons, I think season 4 came out possibly on NTSC only. These are all PAL releases. I don't think the 5th season ever got released. You can now watch the entirety of these on Disney Plus. I was very, very tempted to get Disney Plus purely to watch these all the way through. And then I came to the same conclusion I came with BritBox. If I can get all the classic Doctor Who on there, I would never. I'd have time to play these games. I'm not going to have time to sit down and watch 120 odd episodes of The Muppet Show. No, I'm not. As much as I would love to. If I would have been 20 years younger, I probably would have done, but I would have missed out on this if that was the case. But yeah, so the season 1 to 3 only came out on PAL release. 4 and 5 came out on NTSC. Some of them nowadays, I believe there are some edits on these. Some of them will now be edited on the Disney Plus, especially the Spike Milligan episode, for varying reasons. But yeah, just to have those there, and like I said, the franchise, it's been up and down over the years since that. I mean, the original is still the best. I mean, the Muppet movie is a fantastically good film. Great Muppet Cape is really good as well. And Muppets Take Manhattan, I love that film. Together Again, that opening song, perhaps one of my favourites. Really do love that film. And then it's sort of been the law of diminishing returns after that. As I mentioned, Muppets Night came out, wasn't quite as good. And yeah, okay, people like Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, whatever. But once Jim Henson died in the early 90s, not saying the magic had gone, because obviously his son tried to carry it on for a number of years, but you know, as time goes on, people get older and move on and what have you. It's something else. And they did a recent one. I think it was called now. It might be Muppets Now. I think it was. It was like a web-based show, and it was okay. It was all right. Not the best. The one they did for which went on to mainstream called the Muppets, was called the Muppets, and it was again based around the Muppets having a show. I think it was a Miss Piggy chat show, but they about them having lives outside of that show. So like Fozzie had a girlfriend, not like a bear girlfriend, but he had a proper girlfriend. It was a reasonably well-known star or something. That was just, it was like, what the hell's going on here? But it was good. I enjoyed that when they cancelled it after one season. But there we go. So that's that one. Right, so those are those. We now move back for the final stretch. We are in the home stretch, people. The final stretch of this cartoon collection. A more modern day animation. Now, I've got a massive pile of DVDs here. And these might be quite easy to whiz through. We've reached the early 1990s, and then this whole concept comes along of animation back on mainstream television in the United States, but aimed at a family audience rather than just children. Now, if you go back and watch my Hanna-Barbera videos, I mentioned there that when they first started, programs like Yogi Bear Show and the Flintstones were put in prime time television. Especially the Flintstones. Flintstones was the first prime time animated sitcom, which is, if you think about it now, it is very, very was weird, but we have that now with animation being put into prime time television. And this was, the series was exactly where it went to. It started as a limited animation, short sections of the Tracy Ullman show, you know what I'm talking about, what I'm going to get to. It's got its own series, which then became a global phenomenon. It's still going to this day. A lot of people would probably argue it should have been put out its misery about 15 years ago. I've not watched it in years, but we are talking about the juggernaut that is The Simpsons. Now, what I've got here, I'll just show these very, very quickly, is I have not all of them. I only have the first 7. And I'll tell you why I've only got the first 7 at the moment. But there we go. And again, I picked up some. I think the first one I got as a birthday, as a Christmas present maybe, and then maybe the second one as well. And then the rest I sort of picked up quite cheaply. You can pick these up. There's no value in these at all. I mean, you can probably get these for a couple of quid, if that, per season. In fact, some of these I probably don't think I've actually ever got through and watched all the way. I also have seasons 8, 9 and 10 downloaded through various ways. If I show you all those, there we go, 1 through to 7. Like I said, you can't, they're not difficult to get these. I don't think any of these are particularly difficult or expensive to get hold of. Anything I'm going to show you here today. But I stopped collecting these around about, I think season 7, they changed the packaging. They've started bringing out limited editions, and I think they brought out, they may start with season 6, I don't know, 7, and then they put out the limited edition one with the Simpson characters. You had Marge, Homer, Lisa, Bart and Maggie, their sort of head in the packaging. And I thought, well, that's a waste of time, because if you're like me, you like collecting these, and they look all very nice laid up like that, don't they, on a wall or on a shelf, or, well, you can tell, can't you? The wall of weed behind me, all white, that's what and then they start messing around with the packaging, and I don't like that, and I never like that. I appreciate that in cases you can see here, for some reason season 1's quite thin, but I expect that's the case. But seasons 2, 3, 4 and 5 are quite thick, so you can see the difference there. And then they change the packaging after that, so it looks really weird. Like I said, most people would argue The Simpsons probably could have been put out its music quite some time ago. Like I said, I got the first 10 series because those are the ones I relate to the most. It used to be the case that, we never had Sky when it first started. Obviously, I think after a few years it came on to BBC Two. But by that point, most people had got Sky, and I'd seen most of with having Sky. I think we got Sky got cable in '93. So I'd only really missed probably the first 3 or 4 seasons of The Simpsons. And it was like more a necessity. They're always, new episode at 6:30. It was always exciting. Oh, new Simpsons at 6:30. Great, we record it or we watch it or whatever. And a friend of mine, used to be, when he got cable, we'd, always catch up. We'd be watching Simpsons on Sunday night on Sky One, and then next thing we were at the pub Oh, you see Simpsons night? Yeah. And we that was our routine. And people will argue that the quality of the writing's gone downhill. I mean, there are some good episodes. I mean, not all these seasons 1 through 10 are up to 1 through 7. The ones I've got a complete. There are some stinkers in these. There are some not particularly great episodes, but I just, again, just something that stuck with me. Just you watch something and you think, yeah, I like this, and it's great. And I could still now watch an episode I've seen 100 times before and still sit there and laugh and still laugh hysterically at some of the stuff. It's just one of those programs that I can go back to and watch over and over again. Some people don't like the early stuff because the way it's animated, it is quite hard to watch. Some of the characters' voices are a little different, and some of the stories are a little bit straighter. You could also argue some stories that are really, really stupid. it's just what it is, and probably, I don't know, maybe seasons 4 through 7 are probably the absolute gold mine of great episodes in there, and it's one of my favourite series. That run, first 1 through 10, you're talking probably over 200 episodes there. I think after it got to 300 or so, it just went downhill. The quality went, and some of the characters, the way that they were sort of depicted, and Mo, for example, they sort of develop a certain character trait. Mo sort of becomes this very, very sort of suicidal, depressed barman, and some of the Mo-centric episodes I don't particularly enjoy, apart from the one where he ends up dating Renee, who's voiced by Helen Hunt. That was quite a good episode. Probably my favourite Mo-centric episodes. That one, it's really, really quite good. I'm not. There are so many different things we say about The Simpsons. I'm not going to wax lyrical about them because I'm not an expert on it. But yeah, it's one of my favourites, and it put animation, animated family stroke adult animation back on television, where for years animation has been very much treated like a kids thing, but different anyway. So there's that one. Before we get to another one, I'm going to pull this one out. Now it's an interesting one because I jumped on this quite early, and not many people seem to do so. And the next one I'm going to show is, well, I also jumped on quite early, but I sort of lost interest in it a little bit, and sometimes I wonder if I should go back and watch a bit more about it. But then I don't know. I quite like the early innocent days of it, and just one of my favourite things. I remember seeing adverts for it on Nickelodeon. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to give that a go and watch it. And I became literally obsessed with it for about 12 months or so. I mean, there are some great animations on Nickelodeon. The one I really enjoyed watching was Rocko's Modern Life, which I don't think ever came out on DVD. I remember looking for it for a couple of years back, and they did a brand new Rocko's Modern Life about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, which I just didn't enjoy. But I know some people said it was absolutely fantastic. I think I was half asleep watching it at the time, but it didn't grab hold of me the way Rocko's Modern Life did at the start. Anyway, that may just be me. But I'm talking about SpongeBob. And this is the complete first season of SpongeBob, and it's the only one I've got, and I've not been tempted to get in hold of any of the other ones. But I know I just absolutely love SpongeBob when it first came out. It was great. It's got one of my all-time favourite episodes on it, Tea at the Tree Dome. It's the second episode on the first disc, which means it's the second episode ever. And SpongeBob lives under the sea, if you don't know, in a pineapple. I had no idea why. And his best friend is a squirrel who wears a deep-sea diving outfit called Sandy. I'll say his best friend, one of his best friends anyway. Why is a squirrel living under the sea? I don't know. Don't want to know. And then they bump into each other one day, and Sandy invites SpongeBob for tea at her place, which is a sort of, what's the best way to describe it? A dome under the sea, which is dry. So obviously you go in there, it's just air and whatever. And of course, SpongeBob, being a sea creature, walks in there and he starts to dry out. And the entire episode is him going slowly drier and drier. And she offers him a drink and says, "Thank you very much," and just sort of throws it over himself to try and bring. It's really weird, and bits been sort of falling off. It's a kids program. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? But yeah, and it just sort of stuck with me. I thought, wow, I really enjoyed that. yeah, and it's just fun. It's just a fun program. I know it's an annoying character. Some people don't like SpongeBob because he's an annoying character, but I like it. He's really, really good. And you got all the other characters. You've got Squidward who lives next door, who's a miserable so-and-so. You've got Gary the Snail, SpongeBob's pet. You've got Patrick, SpongeBob's best friend, or second best friend, I suppose. And then you got Mr. Crab, who works at the Krusty Krab restaurant, and then there's Plankton, who runs the Chum Bucket. Oh, there's other little characters in there. So, yeah, if you never, I mean, I can't remember, there can't be too many people who haven't seen SpongeBob SquarePants. But I liked it. I liked it. But like I said, I only got the one season because I did lose. I was quite good and then I sort of lost a bit of interest after a bit and got a little bit older. Never too old for cartoons. And then the final one which I'm going to get to. And again, this is going back to the old adult animation again. And I remember when this first programme first got advertised on, you may just sit there, at Sky. It came on Sky 1 originally, and my friend Neil, who used to watch Simpsons with me regularly, he said, "Oh, we've seen an advert for that new animation." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What do you reckon?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "It looks quite good though, so we'll watch it." And then we watched it, and then we went out to the pub afterwards, and he said, "You watched that program?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh, it's good, that was." And he said, "Yeah, I really watched it." And that was it. Now, I must admit, my interest in this programme sort of dropped off a little bit. I certainly during the original run, because it used to get moved around on Sky 1 an awful lot. It never used to stay in one place, and then Channel 4 got the rights to it and then started chopping bits out of it, and then the programme itself got cancelled in America, which they were told, I think they were told after the third series would be the last one, so they didn't really care what went into the third series because they knew they weren't coming back. And then the programme got rerun on Cartoon Network, I think, again in America, and actually got a lot of interest and gained a lot of traction, and people said, "Oh, they should bring this back." And it became one of the few programmes to get cancelled and then brought back again. And then after that, it just went from strength to strength to strength to strength, and then probably went too far on many an occasion. But there is no denying that there are some absolutely hilarious moments in this series. There are some real times where they cross the line, absolutely no doubt about it. Sometimes the insistence of hammering a joke into the ground does detract from what's going on. But I'm talking about Family Guy. If you've not seen Family Guy, and even the badly animated ones that start like The Simpsons, they're not great, some of these. And some of the stories are not as strange. You watch these early episodes now, this is seasons 1, 2 and 3. If you watch these early episodes now, and then watch some of the more recent ones, you'll probably wonder, how is that the same show? But there we go, so 2 discs set containing 14 episodes. This is the one I asked my dear late mum to go and get me for Christmas one year, and she came back with The Family Man, which is the Nicolas Cage film. I did get it in the end. Then we got season 2, obviously. Season 3 came out on 3 discs. For some reason, I don't know why. But it came out a big set, and then we got 4, 5, 6, 7 exclude, and there we go. Extended episodes 2 rude for TV. There we go. So we're trying to push the element, and then I think I got 8, 9, and 10 at car boot sale. 3 discs, 2 rude for TV version, and then season 10, which I think was probably the last season I watched in any entirety. I downloaded a few episodes off, recorded off ITV2, because ITV2 repeat this ad nauseum. There used to be Fox as well, which until that shut down in the UK, that was a good source for some of the earlier episodes as well. But yeah, I mean, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people really hate it. Like I said, I don't really watch it anymore now. But I mean, the characters, there's a talking dog who drinks, who dates women. There's a talking baby who, back in the early episodes, was trying to kill his mother, and they sort of changed that slightly and gave him this very obvious, distinctive, potentially homosexual undertones. There's Peter, who's a complete moron. Lois, whose wife, he's got his friends, you know, the paraplegic Joe lives next door. You've got his friend Cleveland. They had a spin-off program called The Cleveland Show. You've got Quagmire, the sex-crazed neighbour down the road. all the other little characters that pop up in between. There's some great song and dance music. It's Seth MacFarlane. Have you ever seen? If you never saw Seth MacFarlane appear at the Proms to do a special musicals extravaganza, and I was surprised. He's got a great singing voice, and there's some great music, some great songs in this, like there is in The Simpsons. It's not just animation; it's singing. You know, like I said, some of the writing, some of the jokes. If they get that close, and sometimes they go beyond, and you're thinking, how on earth are they? Friends of mine just absolutely love this program. Yeah, it has. I said I'm not so much so keen on it now. I probably will watch a lot of this stuff and be happy with it. I wouldn't watch some of the things I've seen recently. Is a bit too way out there for me. But yeah, it's just great. If you've never seen Family Guy, you probably just need to catch a few episodes to get an idea what it's about. But there we go. So we'll finish on that one. But yeah, I mean that's it. It ties in. There's so many different aspects. I mean, it's obviously different aspects of animation. I've not touched on anything to do with Disney, for example, because I don't have any Disney stuff. I'm not saying, I'm not cutting Disney animation out of this whatsoever, but I don't know. I don't obsess over Disney cartoons like some people do. It's weird because there was a lot of the Disney shorts on television when I was a kid, like the Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, etc. But the feature films, I saw a couple in the cinema. I think I went to see Basil the Great Mouse Detective, which I think is one of the great ones. I've seen a few on we've watched over the years, like more recent ones. Obviously, when I was a massive film buff, I really got into things like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast because I was interested in the animation style and the history of it and how they put things together. So that was different. And then obviously the TV series like the Gummy Bears and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck and DuckTales. And I used to watch all those when they were on. But I don't know, Disney cartoons not quite the same impact as other ones that I've watched. I don't know why. Very, very strange. Very, very strange indeed. But I hope you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a rambling episode, but there's a lot of stuff to get into that all memories. Not an awful lot of stuff in terms of actual physical things. I'm looking at it. But a real ramble that one. So I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and that rounds that series up very, very nicely. Thank you to everybody who's watched all these all the way through. If you haven't watched any of the early ones, there will be a thingy in the thingy below, and you go back and have a look at it. But yeah, do let me know, and I may even do a follow-up about games based on cartoons, but I don't know, that might take me forever to sort that out. We'll have to see, possibly. We'll go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate the support, appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I will see you again very, very soon. Do take care. Bye for now.